I offer with lots of love and gratitude myself at the lotus feet of our beloved Lord, Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. And once again, I'm delighted to convey to you the bliss, blessings, and peace from Prashanthi Nilayam, the spiritual capital of the world, of the universe, and the abode of supreme peace. Actually, I had been praying to Swami to guide me what I should share with you, and I brought my laptop actually I had made some points. But after listening to that beautiful rendition, I think I changed my mind entirely. And I will still say that the Lord's Prayer should be our guiding star. And by the way, that is the prayer we chant at the end of the day in the Anantapur campus of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. And when we were students, Saraswati was part of the team that sang Karacharana Kritam Vak at the end of the day. And I rendered that particular Lord's Prayer to thank Swami. So it was very nostalgic to see that. And keeping in mind Bhagwan's discourse this morning, how he traced the evolution of Jesus' relationship with his Father, where he first identified himself as the messenger of God, then as the Son of God, and eventually he came to the realization that he and his Father are one, is but a reflection of these three schools of thought of Indian philosophy, known as Advaita, which was propounded by a great master called Madhvacharya, Vishishta Advaita, which was propounded by Ramanujacharya, and Advaita, or Advait, propounded by Sri Shankaracharya. So basically, all of us are going through these three stages of our relationship where we define ourselves. I'm a Sai Sevak. I work for the Sai organization. I think I'm somewhat like a messenger of Swami. And then we kind of grow in our faith and conviction and experiences and consider ourselves as the son or daughter of Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. And eventually, hopefully, one day we'll all realize we are him, as he has constantly reminded us. I want to share with you, and I seek Swami's permission, and I sought Saraswati's permission before coming up, some information about the life of Jesus that I gathered as a child. And if anybody here has read a book by Ron and Peggy Mason on the life and times of Jesus Christ based on their conversations with Swami, please feel free to correct me, because I read it as a young teenager and the book is out of print. I've always been looking for it. This is a book in which they chronicled their conversations with Bhagwan Baba in Vrindavan about the lost years of Jesus. There's a whole body of evidence and literature about that. So I'll go back to when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, and I lived in the valley of Kashmir. My mother had a doctor. He was a naturopath. His name was Dr. Aziz. I remember his face, his name vividly. When he came to our house, he found us a very secular, relaxed family because I attended the Presentation Convent school next to my house, and I loved going to the chapel. As I was telling you, in my family, the Sufi saints, the missionaries, all the Hindu saints, everybody was welcome. So when he found a very open-minded, broad-minded, inclusive audience in my father and mother, he started to tell us about the research he was involved in, which was about the lost years of Jesus Christ. And he started to tell us, at that time we were in a state of utter disbelief, when he said that Jesus did not actually exit his body on the cross, but actually escaped to India. And he said that his resting place is not far from where my grandmother's house was. We thought it was a little far-fetched at that time. But then he explained a lot of detail. But only about 10 years after that, I read this book in which Peggy and Ron Mason asked Swami. These were devotees of some strong psychic intuitive abilities from the UK, if my memory serves me right. And they asked Bhagwan about Jesus and his connection to India. And what I remember from that book is Swami said that Jesus came to India not once but twice. When he was a young man, he came and he studied with the great Buddhist monks and the Hindu scholars to understand the truth of God. he went back to Jerusalem and he taught the gospel of joy and peace and harmony. As is the case with every prophet who opens the window of a musty room and lets in fresh air, there was opposition. This was against the establishment that was controlling power and religion at that time. Subsequently, we all know what it led to. And what Baba said, and what I remember from the book, based entirely on my recollection, which I read many decades ago, but it was so riveting that it has stayed with me all these years, that on the cross, although Judas betrayed Jesus, he had his own disciples, and they planned an escape for him. So when he was bleeding on the cross, most people could not bear the gruesome sight and they ran away, assuming he was gone. He had left the body, the spirit had left the body. And the whole concept of the apparition is because he was unnailed and brought down and some herbs were applied to his wounds. So he looked gruesome. And that's where the concept of the apparition of Christ came. And with the help of some of his devotees or disciples, they planned a secret path, and through Asia Minor, what is known in Afghanistan, parts of Afghanistan and Pakistan, Jesus and his mother escaped to Kashmir. There is a place, a hill station in Pakistan, it is called Murray, M-U-R-R-A-Y, I think. And that is where Mary could not take the strain, his mother could not take the strain of the arduous journey. She passed on. And that hill station is a ski station in Pakistan, what is currently the country of Pakistan. It is named after his mother. He came and settled to a life of peace and penance in the valley of Kashmir because of its beautiful spiritual climate and physical climate. It's a very cool, beautiful country, part of the world. And his resting place is in a place called Rosabal, R-O-S-A-B-A-L, I think is the spelling. You can Google it. So you can write in Google the resting place of Jesus in Kashmir. 3 years ago, I was in Kashmir and I made it a point to visit that place. It is in an area where my grandparents used to live a very long time ago called Zaina Kadal. And near Zaina Kadal is this place called Rosabal. And for the longest time, the local population did not accept that this could be the resting place of who we think it is. But over the years, there is a beautiful poster that has come up and they've quoted a line. It's like a English shloka which says, "Here rests the Son of God," and something. But what is unique about that particular tomb is that it is designed in the Jewish tradition, where the head is placed in a direction which is distinct from the Muslim tombs. And it is done as per the tradition of the Jewish Middle Eastern culture. So we went there. It's a small little house, and at that time it was locked, and given the political climate of Kashmir, it was locked. But there's a little alleyway that goes up, and the building is along the alleyway, and the window is on the street. So we stood outside on the street, and we looked at this tomb. I don't know whether you can believe me, it was like standing in a vortex of energy. The energy was hitting you. You could feel a presence there so many thousands of years ago. That actually, surprisingly, could just be the Mahasamadhi of Jesus Christ that the world doesn't know of. So you can imagine a place that is so potent and powerful in Rosabal, in Kashmir, thousands of years after the passing on of the Son of God. How powerful is the Mahasannidhi of Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, where his father is laid to rest in such a recent past. Now, talking of the relationship that all of us have with Swami, which is ever evolving and hopefully growing, I'd like to share with you that when I was coming to Melbourne, I took a flight out of Bangalore to go to Singapore. But my flight, I was waiting at the airport. I was really tired because by the way, Bangalore airport was very efficient. 20 minutes, security, immigration check-in, all done. And I went 3 hours before flight time. And the flight was delayed. So I'm waiting. And then the Singapore Airlines people said that the flight from Singapore is yet to land. As soon as it lands, you will take off. So we waited an extra hour and then we boarded. And then the pilot was clever. He said, oh, we are waiting to take off because the runway in Bangalore is not clear. Duh, we know the background story. You were late in coming from Singapore. And then we were taxiing on the Bangalore airport forever, seeing all the buildings, all the construction, but not taking off. Sometimes I like to compare our state to that. We have all for decades as Baba's devotees been doing our beautiful bhajans, our seva activities, sandwich seva, shelter seva, SSE. But we are pretty much in that taxing state. And I think COVID was a time when all of us got so much of we could pause our lives and reflect on what is the future course of our own individual lives and of the Sri Sathya Sai movement as a larger body. And I do believe, it really is my firm faith that Swami used the COVID as a time of great reflection for entire humanity, including the Sathya Sai mission. And that is when Swami rejigged and re-engineered and decided he wanted to take his mission into the highest gear possible. So from a commercial flight, an economy ticket on a commercial flight, he suddenly decided to pick the creme de la creme of his devotees and put them on something like a SpaceX rocket space. And this is not for the faint of heart. The Sri Sathya Sai Global Council is Bhagwan's sankalp to take, or it is a manifestation of the divine will to take the Sathya Sai movement into a mainstream, larger player in the affairs of humanity, to have a greater influence on everything from policy making to the future of education to the future of relationships at all levels. And that is those of us who have been chosen to be a part of this beautiful mission under the umbrella of the Sri Sathya Sai Global Council. I believe we are really very blessed and fortunate to have the opportunity, but it also calls for a revamping of everything from our operating system to our RAM and our ROM and our memory bank, because there is a lot of work to be done ahead. And that is why, as a mission, this retreat is a great opportunity for us to think, what is the purpose of all of us spending so much energy and time to drive and fly in from so many different parts of Australia, to spend this kind of money and effort in arranging, coordinating, and putting this event together? Once it's over on Monday, what is it that we are taking back from here? And that's a reflection I'd like to draw all our attention to, because today is not an ordinary day. It's a day of great transition, ascension, growth. It's a very sacred day that we are meeting on. And just as Jesus evolved in his relationship with his Father, I think each one of us needs to introspect and question our relationship, redefine it, and make the necessary adjustment so that when we present ourselves in front of anyone, what Swami said, his darshan should flow through us. His words and love and compassion should extend and exude from us. So, are we becoming more in the likeness of our Father, or are we only quoting him? It's one thing to stand and speak eloquently about Swami's teachings, quote a few shlokas, sing a few bhajans, leave the audience in a wow. It's quite another to have that electrifying presence that Swami had. Imagine if Swami was walking down this aisle, we'd all be sitting in a certain way, we'll have a shudder go down our backs and we'll be so alive. Swami expects each one of us to be like him, and it will come once we think thoughts that please him. We start thinking like God, thoughts of unconditional love, seeing everybody as an extension of ourselves. Having no malice towards anyone, that's just the start. But beyond that, people who look different from us, talk different from us, have different political views, doesn't matter. They're also the extension of the same Godhead and extension of ourselves. That's when racism and biases will melt down. When we speak words as we would in the presence of Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba in the interview room, if we could always be so mindful of our tongues, we would reflect his voice. Swami said before we open our mouth, we have to have these 3 tests, right? 3 filters. What I'm going to speak, is it true? Is it necessary? And is it going to improve upon the silence? I believe most of the time that when we are yapping, we may not meet these 3 criteria. And the actions we perform, are they edifying? Are they helpful? Do they promote goodness of our own families, starting with our families, and the planet that we live on? Because our carbon footprint is growing at such a dangerous level that all this talk is of no value if we have more wildfires in the jungle and global warming hits us in a bigger way than it already has. So, keeping all these things in mind, I think time has come for us for a great internal audit and introspection, and to see how to deal with life from a silence. One of the assumptions we often tend to make is that if we are in Swami's fold, we will not have any problems. Anything but the truth. Once we are at the lotus feet and we dedicate our lives to Swami, that's when the process of churning begins. And Swami decides to see to what extent he can wring us to the right and then wring us like a wet towel to the left and put us in the wringer, because only by passing each test, we grow. So it's a test of our faith. I was earlier on Friday evening, I was telling you how poorly I and my family responded to the Mahasamadhi. We were absolutely lost, and I'm sure so were you. But after that, in my personal life, I had a series of continuous bang, bang, bang setbacks. I lost my mom within months of Swami's departure. And I had to take care of my dad, who had severe dementia. In the process, my husband and my niece met with a horrendous accident driving from Bangalore to Puttaparthi. My niece had to be operated in Bangalore, and many such horrible things happened. She was visiting from Toronto, and this mishap happened. Within a year of looking after my dad, he passed on, and then my mother. We had one happy moment in the family after that, when a nephew had a Yagnopavitam. And after that, my mother-in-law took very sick. And then she was bedridden. So for about 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row, we were only struggling with sickness, nursing, ailment, death. And we are Kashmiri Pandits, we are Brahmins, so we have a very elaborate 1-year process of prayers after each departure. So actually, I could have taken up being an undertaker for a profession, because that's all I was doing continuously for 3 years, 4 years. So I knew exactly what pujas to do, what materials to buy, what samagris to get. Well, it was, life teaches you things you've never thought of. So I never thought it would ever fall on my shoulders to do any of that, but it did. And that was my growth spurt. And in the process, just as everything was, we could not even catch our breath. By the time we would deal with one big loss, emotional loss, financial loss, and physical loss and pain, and try to recover the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. It was a series, but throughout, the only thing that helped us to maintain sanity was seva. The greatest therapy on earth is involving ourselves in Swami's work. Because when we do Swami's work, he will put the thought in your head, he'll execute. There was a saying here, right? I think, I execute, I enjoy, I present. He did everything, and then you realize you're just an actor, you're playing a role. You're playing a role for a time being. And you better play that role as well as you can in our family lives, in our personal lives. Because behind you, there is a changing stage. Different people were our best friends 10 years ago and our family members. 10 years later, it's a different set of people we are surrounded by. And in 10 years to come, there will be another emerging set of people coming up. All that is changing. Through this impermanence, there is only one permanence, and that is Bhagwan. And the sooner we realize it and hold on to his lotus feet and pray to that lotus feet that just keep me close to you, close to your heart. I just want to remember you and your feet. Manasa Bhajare Guru Charanam. I never want to forget that line, Swami. I never want to lose my path. The more secure and anchored we are. The winds of tragedy, tests, trials, difficulties will not shake us. Swami said, no, if I want to hang a nice big picture on the wall, I have to drill in a nail and then check, is it firm enough or is it loose? If it's loose, I got to drill it further. Only when it's secure can I confidently hang a big picture on the wall on that nail. Similarly, as devotees, we have to constantly face many tests. And we should never let those tests deter us, because with confidence I can say that everybody in this audience has faced many tests, but they also found Swami helping them through the worst times in their lives. For me, my saving grace was the work I did at what was then known as Radio Sai. I used to work there many years ago, 8-9 years ago. And the stories of devotees and their experiences and writing articles about, not writing or editing articles about Swami or mounting a documentary, it was like immersing one's mind and soul in the glory of the avatar. And once you're immersed in his glory, the mind is a monkey, right? Whatever you give it, it will shape itself after it. When you give it the stories of the Lord's glory and his grace, the mind will tame itself along those lines. If we dwell on, oh my God, I lost everything, I'm left with nothing, what is happening to my life, everything is out of control, it will go in that I am the victim mode and drive us crazy. Swami has said, we are not the mind, we are the Atma, we are the masters of that mind. So it is up to us how we deal with this mind and control it. The best panacea in this age, 2 therapies. The first is seva. But do it with all our heart and soul without looking for a byline or recognition. And I think for me, I was telling the girls yesterday, that has been the only thing I might have done right in my life. Never look for a byline, a credit. Never look for recognition and name. There might be many things I might have done. For example, in Radio Sai, you might have heard of maybe 1/10, because 1/10 may carry my name. The 90% that doesn't carry my name is my offering to Swami and is between me and Swami, and I don't need an audience to say, oh, you did that story, it came out so good. No. I think that's one good thing I did. The other is Namasmaranam. Swami said we must constantly chant the name of the Lord. Any name that speaks to your heart. There is no restriction. You can chant Hail Mary, you can chant Allahu Akbar, you can chant Om Sairam, Gayatri, whatever pleases us. But that is what, when we are on a task, do the task like our life depends on it. That's called seizing the power of now. And between tasks, give your mind the relief of Namasmarana. That would be the best way to refresh our thinking, our outlook, and also making sure that we understand who we truly are. So today I want to question you. How do you identify yourselves with Bhagwan? Do you see yourself as his messenger, a devotee? Do you see yourself as his offspring, as a son or daughter of Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba? Or do you see yourself as Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba? Take a moment, reflect. So before I end, I want to tell you about a queen. I spoke a little about her yesterday to the girls. In an interview that Baba gave us, he said, the most beautiful, the most intelligent, brilliant queen of the 5 Pandavas was a lady named Draupadi. She was a strategist. She had political acumen. She was brilliant, beautiful, commanding, a princess par excellence. She was the queen of the 5 Pandavas, and at one point in time, she had a little slip in her conduct. The slip was her 5 husbands built a beautiful city. it was glorious. It was designed architectural marvel. And when their evil cousins, the Kauravas, came for the housewarming ceremony, this building had translucent stones for flooring. This Swami told us in an interview in the prayer hall, the mandir in Prashanthi. And it had skylights, and the sunlight filtered through the skylight and it reflected on the beautiful translucent floors. The floors shone so beautifully with ripples of light that it looked as though the floor was made of water. It was a pool of water. So when the crazy cousin, Kaurava, the oldest of them, Duryodhana, came in, he was so dazzled by this beauty of this castle. As it is, they were full of jealousy and rage. And then when he saw this beautiful place, he actually lifted the hem of his robe to walk, thinking that his royal garments might get wet. And right above, in the ladies' quarters, behind a certain trellis, was standing this Queen Draupadi and her entourage of attendants. And apparently she burst out into peals of laughter and she made a snide comment. The blind man's son appears to be blind, because Duryodhana was the son of a blind king named Dhritarashtra. And when she said that, Duryodhana's pride and ego was so badly hurt. And Swami said, by that one allowed slip, she had sown the seed of a war, which was the battle of mother of all battles, that was going to be fought with thousands of lives being sacrificed. Now, fast forward to the Mahabharata and the battle that happened this was followed by the humiliation of Draupadi, because they were raging, the Kauravas, and then the battle that took place where Krishna tried to play the role of an emissary or a diplomat, and eventually the battle was fought in which thousands of human lives, thousands of animal lives were sacrificed, because they used horses and elephants for their rides. At the end of this war, you could hear the shrieks of the orphans, the thousands of orphans, the thousands of widowed women. The soil was soaked in blood. But the Pandavas had one last thing to do. They had to go for a penance into the Himalayas. There were some terms and conditions. The 5 brothers and their queen had to go into the state of Vanaprastha, and they had to climb these mountains, but they could not turn behind and look back, because the past is to be left behind. You have to embrace the future by being in the present moment. So they started. And by this time, Draupadi was much older. Her body was aging. She was devastated and drained emotionally. She had lost her grandsons, her children, her sons, her near and dear ones. And she had seen such devastation that had taken place because of a situation in which she was the big cog, right, in that wheel. As they were walking, she was finding it very hard to keep up with her 5 athletic, strong husbands. And every few minutes she would slip and fall, but none of them could turn back and look at her or lend her a hand, because that was not allowed. After a while, the winds became treacherously cold, the stones were slippery, and her feet were infirm. And at one point, I must digress here. Draupadi had a very challenging life. And throughout her life, although she was born into so much of privilege, she had this uncanny happy place. Whenever she was in difficulty, she would think of her best friend, not her 5 handsome, strong, athletic husbands, because even when she was humiliated, not one of them came to her rescue. The only friend who ever came to her rescue since her childhood when she was lonely was Krishna, Lord Krishna. But there was something about this. Before Krishna would come, suddenly she would smell a certain fragrance and the air would turn electric. And then she would spy from the corner of her little eye a little bit of a yellow robe, and Krishna would come and make it all good. Now, as she is lying on those stones going up the Himalayas, her aching bones, her twisted body, I think she felt her limbs were mangled and there was no no energy left in her to even straighten herself out. Her bones, her flesh was freezing, frost bites. Suddenly, the air turned electric, and there was a certain fragrance. And again, because she was tossed and her head was hanging, from the corner of her eye, she sensed the pitambar robe, the yellow of Krishna's silk. And she knew it was going to be all right. All of a sudden, as that presence came closer to her, her pain just stopped. There was no pain. And she felt warm and light and liberated. And she felt a certain oneness with this Krishna. She saw, all of a sudden, she felt she was dancing with Krishna. She was one with Krishna. And all of a sudden, she looked down, and below on that stone was a mangled, tattered body of an old woman who she was not. That was Draupadi's moment to realize she wasn't the body. She was Krishna. All of us are on that journey. The sooner we realize we are not the body, this is a garment we are wearing, just as Jesus wore his garment. And we have to rise in our spirit and become one with our Father. That is the day we would truly be celebrating Easter. And I leave you on, I have 3 minutes. I will leave you on one last note on the power of now. In one of my graduating interviews in the interview room, Bhagwan, a lot of girls were asking Swami, what should I do next? And it looked like Swami was being very casual, funny, and random when he said, you do MSc, you do MBA, you do MRS. You know what is MRS, right? So the girls who were supposed to get married, they became Mrs. Like he said, listen to your parents, do MRS. We thought it was a degree. Actually, it is lifelong, isn't it? So Swami was just throwing these different degrees at us, and we were not paying attention. Then Swami said, settle down. Why are you all so anxious about what you have to do? Should I go to this university? Should I apply here? Why are you all in such a rage and, crazy tizzy state of mind? Then Swami said, all of you overthink about the future all the time. What am I going to do? And he was teasing us, who am I going to marry? Will he be rich? Will he be handsome? And all those things. Where am I going to settle down? And then he pointed at our warden, an elderly lady, and he said, and then there are people like her who are always, when I was a student, and he imitated her very good English, and he said, she will always say the world was perfect, and in Presidency College, Madras, we had this and that. She lives in the past. All of you daydream about the future. Everybody's forgetting there is a present to be lived. The present it's called a present, it's a gift from God. The present is the omnipresent. Seize it, live it, relish it. You don't know what tomorrow holds. So live well in the present moment. How you live today will determine what your tomorrow will be. Not your worrisome thoughts, not you projecting your insecurities on, will I have enough money? Where will I die? Where will I retire? What will I do? None of that is going to be your consequence. And then Swami told us that if today you go out and plant some lemon seeds in the soil, you're likely to grow a lemon bush that will bear a citrus fruit called a lemon, high potency vitamin C. It will not bear bananas and mangoes. So what you're going to sow today will determine what you will harvest down the road. Live in the present moment. Don't worry about karma, destiny, this, that, everything. Swami assured us we should not fall for this Navagraha business, because when we have the Navagrahas are the 9 planets, and many of us from the Indian diaspora are obsessed with figuring out astrologically where we stand in our relationship with the 9 of them. Swami said, when we have his anugraha, the Navagrahas have no power over us. With that faith in his lotus feet, let us constantly chant Manasa Bhajare Guru Charanam. Thank you so much.